Hello, today we have John Passalacqua, CEO and Director of First Phosphate, trading on the Nasdaq under the ticker PHOS. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Craig.
John, you have just secured $4.8 million for road infrastructure and power lines to the mine. That is on top of $16.7 million received in March for mine concentrator development. That all comes to $21.5 million in non-repayable government funding within 6 months. Why is Ottawa prioritizing you? What does it signal to investors about the strategic importance of Bégin-Lamarche compared to other critical mineral projects?
Yeah, so Bégin-Lamarche, as you know, is high purity igneous phosphate for the lithium iron phosphate LFP battery industry. And just last month, we were signaled by the G7 at the Resilience and Production Alliance as one of the major supply chains that's required in the Western world. So First Phosphate is strongly supported at the G7 level, and that filters down to the nation state level where Canada, Ottawa, recognizes the extreme importance of high purity igneous phosphate, one of the only sources in the Western world.
Now, how does having the government of Canada fund this pre-production infrastructure, power transmission, and roads, how does that help de-risk First Phosphate's path to production compared to junior miners that must raise private capital for every stage?
Well, it's important to note, Craig, that the company, as per our last financials, has over $30 million in treasury. So we've already done the very heavy lifting on our end. We've also advanced the project quite significantly over the last number of years. The project is also a significant deposit. We recently upgraded it mostly up to indicated, about 400% increase in the indicated resources. And with the contribution from the government of Canada plus the funding that we have in treasury, we reach over $50 million. That's $50 million, which allows us to completely de-risk the project to final investment decision. It gets us past feasibility study that's upcoming, permitting, and final investment decision. So you're looking at a project that's really got the runway to be able to get to that final investment decision where the CapEx is then committed to building out the mine. And we already have significant players at the table because of our relationships at the G7 to be able to build out the CapEx for the mine.
High purity igneous phosphate is uniquely built for LFP batteries in a focused market compared to traditional phosphate miners. What does LFP demand look like today, John? And what does the market forecast through 2030 and beyond as robotics, electric vehicles, and battery energy storage systems begin to scale?
Yes, the market right now is getting pretty tight. And when you start projecting out to about 2030 and 2035, it looks incredibly explosive. Right now, LFP is almost 80% of all the batteries that are being produced for a number of sectors that go from robotics, energy storage, out to mobility applications, drones, small mobility, etc. And in order to continue to supply that market up until 2030, 2035, we're looking at a 5 to 10x increase over that period in the amount of purified phosphoric acid required and LFP cathode active material required, and especially so outside of Asia into North America and Europe.
The government's infrastructure funding explicitly targets gaps that limit production and expansion in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region. How might these new roads and powers create a competitive moat for First Phosphate?
Yeah, so we've already established that the company has got the liquidity to be able to get to final investment decision. We've already established that the resources there, it's continuous, it is mineable. So in most of these projects, then the next step is, can we get power out to it and can we get road infrastructure out to it? And these two contributions are exactly to be able to facilitate that, to be able to make the investments that's required to determining how to build the road and how to build the electricity to the project. One thing that I will note, we are about 2 kilometers from major provincial highway, which is like state highway. So basically, it's not about whether you can build a road, it's about how to build the road that is the most convenient and the most environmentally less challenging. And then also for the electrical infrastructure, we are very close to power lines. So it's about determining in which direction those power lines will go.
And John, how does your vertically integrated mine-to-market strategy for LFP materials position you within the North American LFP ecosystem?
Yeah, so as we established, we've got the embryo of being able to create the mine. So that's the major upstream positioning, this high purity igneous phosphate that then translates into phosphoric acid and then into LFP cathode active material. And it's some of the purest phosphate that's found on planet Earth, and we're lucky to have it here in a special corner of North America. So basically, it allows us to integrate all the way from mine with partners right through to production of LFP cathode active material that then goes into the battery cells and then goes into the systems that run on LFP battery. So it really allows us to fully onshore the LFP battery supply chain here in North America from cradle all the way to product.
And finally, John, what is the essential takeaway from today's announcement, and why should investors really be taking an interest in First Phosphate right now?
I think the takeaway is, and we've seen it over the last 3, 4 months with First Phosphate, we have major interest from the Quebec government, who has fast tracked the project. We have major interest from the federal government of Canada, who has put the contributions behind us. And we have major interest from the United States through the Exim Bank, and major interest in Europe and the G7 through the Danish Import-Export Credit Agency, 3 agencies of the Italian government, and also the Belgian government. So we have, a really strong group of nation states that want to see this project forward, that realize that it's very important to onshore this lithium iron phosphate LFP battery supply chain in the West. So we have the right project, and it is fully supported to come to life as soon as possible.
John, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Craig. Always a great pleasure.